Good evening and welcome to the September 26, 2023 meeting of Pequannock Township Council. Ms. Marsh.
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends and Daily Record newspapers, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
Please join me for a pledge of allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for individuals serving our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Marsh, please call the roll. Have a drink.
Mr. Dreese is absent. Mrs. Florence Lynch is also absent. Mr. Hurd.
Here.
Mrs. Russell.
Here.
Mayor Cole.
Here.
You have a quorum.
There we go. All right. Next on the agenda is presentations. We have the Flood Reliance Officer, Jennifer McCullough, for a report to the public. Jennifer.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for the benefit of the tape, the presentation that Ms. McCullough is going to be referring to is posted on the website as a component of the agenda packet. So anyone watching this video that wants to see the slides, please refer to the agenda packet that is posted on the website. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm the Flood Resilience Officer here in the Township. I'd like to thank the Council for having me this evening. So let's just dive right in to what's going on in flood resilience. It's always top of our mind what's going on with the FEMA maps, the appeal, and the adoption process. We have a number of FEMA grants going on in town and some funding challenges this year. This is going to be a year of planning, and you'll understand why when I get to that section. And there's also some interesting things going on this hurricane season that I wanted to make you aware of. So the FEMA flood map appeal has been a 6-year saga, as you know. So 2017, FEMA came out with maps that were incorrect. The township fought back. We took the map appeal to the federal level and won. And then Adam and I worked with FEMA for 2 years on a monthly basis correcting the maps. We reached a consensus at the end of June 2022, and we were told that the maps would be ready October 1st, which is what I stood up here last year and told you. With that date, we had hoped to adopt the maps by April of 23, but instead we had 15 months of technical glitches and incredibly exhaustive reviews. So it turns out that the highly sophisticated software that was used on the 2022 maps was too sophisticated for them to actually weave back into the 2017 maps. So once they got that straightened out, I think they were nervous. So then there were 3 levels of review: the regular, the enhanced, and they actually hired Michael Baker as an external consultant to double check the maps one more time. So we were told early October of this year, but the good news is it looks like they'll be released on Thursday.
This Thursday.
This Thursday.
Yeah, call me Friday morning.
We're being told they will be released on Thursday.
Do you notice that I didn't cross out early October? I just put the 28th in as an option. So the most important thing I can tell you about these new maps that's really exciting is once FEMA takes down the 2017 maps online and replaces them with the new maps supersede the old ones. So the banks and the insurance companies will use this new posted map because it's considered, the best available data. Now, with Frank's help, where's Frank? Over here. We reviewed the new maps, and we got a pretty good result. So 229 homes were incorrectly mapped into the floodplain. 215 have been corrected and moved outside the floodplain. Of the remaining 14, 9 of the properties are what is called split zones, so part of the house is in the floodplain, part isn't, which makes them good candidates for a letter of map amendment. But here's where it gets really interesting. We don't know why, but an additional 76 homes were taken out of the floodplain. And these are homes that have been in the floodplain forever. So we're looking for 229, and it looks like we're going to get 291 taken out. Oops. Gotta go backwards there. Click too fast. If the maps are delivered, as they're saying in October, we should have adopted maps by May of '24. And then the saga of the two maps will end, which we're all looking forward to. So here's the map adoption process. Base case scenario, it takes 6 months. So FEMA will issue a letter of final determination. The township will pass an amendment to the floodplain ordinance. Now, it's very simple. We simply cite different maps than the ones that are cited right now. It's not a big deal at all. That gets sent to the state for approval. Once they approve it, then we go ahead and adopt it. At that point, we start notifying the public. Letters, website, probably even something on the community information board. And then the final step is that we have public meetings and open houses, so people could come talk to the township and FEMA and make sure that, they understand everything that's going on. And then FEMA approves the floodplain ordinance, and we have an effective map. Now, in terms of the home elevation...
So, can I just...
Of course.
Question. So, do you really think anybody's going to show up?
I don't know. There might be 5 houses that weren't taken out of the floodplain that might show up. But you never know. People might have questions. But we want to make sure that, we're available.
Opportunity.
So the home elevation grants, we've completed 39. We've got 44 pending right now. So there's basically 4 grants going on right now. The 2018 grant has 14 homes. It just got a grant extension. 3 are completed and 11 are progressing well. The 2019 grant has 15 homes. They also got a grant extension until May of '24. They've got 9 progressing, and right now we have 4 homes that are either recently sold or on sale right now, so that kind of freezes those projects. And we have 2 homeowners looking for financing. The 2020 grant round has 8 homes and should kick off this winter once FEMA sends the money to the state. And the good news is our FEMA grant from last year for 7 homes was approved. So now that's been sent down to DC for review and appropriation. The only thing that's tough is, it used to be it was sent to DC and it would take a year to 18 months for that process, and now it's more like 2 to 3 years. So homeowners are having to be really patient. In terms of FEMA funding challenges, so last year we talked about the Social Vulnerability Index, or SVI, which basically is set up to help disadvantaged communities. So it's set up, 2 rounds of funding. The first round is for high SVI communities, so they kind of get the first bite of the apple. And then the second round is for lower SVI communities, and we're at 3, so we're in the lower range. This year they came up with something new, and it's actually more of a tongue twister than Social Vulnerability Index. It's the Community Disaster Resilience Zone, or CDRZ. So they've given top priority to 483 census tracts across the country. New Jersey has 8 of those tracts, and almost all of them are at the shore right now. And they looked at 3 factors. One is SVI, the other is the hazard risk level, and the resilience burden. Now there's something else that's going on right now. FEMA is operating on what they call an immediate needs funding basis, and it basically, in plain English, means we're running out of money. So we only have money for current disasters. And that's a little shocking because Congress gave them $27 billion for this year. So that's pretty serious that they're starting to run out, and we're not even completely through the hurricane season. So what they're doing is they've put a pause on spending for anything but current disasters. They will be accepting applications, they just don't know at what point. And keep in mind, this is a temporary measure. Once their funding is replenished, everything goes back to normal. The other interesting thing that we're hearing is that FEMA and immigration are both under the umbrella of DHS, and they both want the money. And it looks like there's going to be a smaller funding pool this year, and there's increased needs in both programs, so we don't know where that all is going to end up. Now, in terms of the year of planning, we have the same goals for this program. Obviously to mitigate flooding, to be prepared when there is a flood event, to lower costs for our residents, especially in this environment of flood insurance going up, and to attract as much FEMA funding as we can get. So when you look at the obstacles that we're up against right now, they all have to do with demographics, and we can't really change that. We can't make ourselves into a disadvantaged community. But what we can do is go for a CRS class rating of 4, which I've talked to you guys about through the years. It's a really, really tough lift. That would put us in the top 1%, or 1.6% of the nation. And for all of you that don't know, CRS is the program that gives us our flood insurance discount. And this is really the only way to mitigate the effects of these two new programs, the SVI and CDRZ. And the reason why is when you look at the FEMA application that we fill out in a disaster, or if we're looking for a home elevation grant, once they've got the information about the township and who to contact here, the first question is, are you a CRS community? And the second is, what's your class rating? If you're a class rating of 4, they literally take your application and put it in a different pile. And it gets a different type of consideration than if you're, among people below that. The insurance discount would go up to 30%. It's currently 25%. Each change in class rating in Pequannock Township is roughly $100,000 savings to residents. So it's significant. So what we're doing right now are these 4 plans. As you can see, 2 of them, the Watershed Master Plan and the Evacuation Plan, we have Army Corps of Engineer grants for, and we're working with them on those. The repetitive loss area analysis is a real tough one. So we have a consultant helping us with that, and we're working with Morris County on the hazard mitigation plan. So that'll put us very close to having all the requirements for a class rating of 4. But just to make sure, these are all the plans I'll be writing. I'm not going to read them all off. But as you can see, it covers a pretty broad array. And the crazy thing about this whole process is, even though it's a point system, you have to meet, as I said, these really tough requirements for a class 4. Once you get past that, then it's just straight points. So Pequannock Township already has the points for a class 4. So once we get those requirements taken care of, we get popped right up, and we're very close to a class 3 right now. So all of this is very achievable. And once we get to the class 4, we're going to go after a class 3 and get a 35% discount, and then a class 2. But I want you to know that we're not just doing kind of pie in the sky planning. We're also doing real things, if you will. So we have an automated flood warning system that hopefully will be put in place sometime in the next month. And this is proprietary to Pequannock. It'll go into the Pompton River, and it'll be an automatic alert to the police station when the river gets to certain river levels. And that way we're not futzing around with stream gauges that sometimes go up and down online. Thanks to Jim Bonelli, we do a FEMA tabletop exercise every year where they simulate a hurricane, and staff has to respond to all different scenarios. And it's a fantastic way to keep us on our toes. So the repetitive loss area analysis, one of the reasons it's such a heavy lift is we have to reach out individually to every single repetitive loss homeowner, which is almost 360 homeowners in town. But at the end of the process, they will be very, very well informed about all the different different options that they have. And the last thing is the substantial damage determination process. We've really tried hard to define it and streamline it. And after a major flood event, this is one of the most difficult things, because homeowners are out of their home, there's been a major flood, staff has to go out and look at all the homes that were damaged and determine, is this safe? Can they move back in? Can they not move in? Do they need to elevate it? And understandably, residents want answers now. So you need to be able to hit the ground running. So you might recall last year I wrote a substantial damage management plan that was approved by FEMA. It was the first one in the state to be approved. And I haven't heard of any other ones. I've gotten some phone calls from folks saying, hey, can you send me yours? And I say, hey, no. We use Forerunner technology, so it's great. They've set up some really exciting new things so we can, collect data in the field on our phones that is stored in a cache, and then when we get back, it can auto-generate letters and also populate FEMA's estimator tool. And then last year, I became a trained member of New Jersey DART, which is the Disaster Assistance and Response Team. So they're kind of like the SWAT teams for SDD. And I wanted to learn the best way to do it. But the nice thing is it's a free shared services group. So let's say a flood hits us, volunteers from the north and the shore and all over the place will come help. And, I'll do the same if they get hit by a hurricane. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, because I just think it's kind of cool. I don't know if anybody has been watching the hurricane season.
Yeah.
So we've had like 16 tropical storms or hurricanes. It's like there's a pitcher in the Atlantic just chucking them at us. And if you notice, they're doing this crazy bending. Mm-hmm. So there's something called a recurve pattern going on, and it's a really strong jet stream that comes from the west, it heads south, and then it just kind of flanks the east coast. And what's interesting is it's almost like a bowling alley with, one of those bumper rails. So the hurricane hits that, high pressure jet stream, and it just bounces off. And so this was Nigel last weekend. So we're all going to knock on wood and hope the recurve pattern holds for the rest of the year. Does anybody have any questions?
So if your house is in the flood, call you Friday maybe to find out if it's been...
Sure.
But here it is, 835-5700, extension 164.
And I have cards here.
Those people who were always in a flood that were taken out, are you going to be reaching out to those people?
Oh, everybody. Everybody who's had a change will hear from us.
And then how do I had problems where I was told I was in a flood zone when I wasn't. I had the map, I had my house, and I still had to fight and fight and fight. Do we have any help for them if their banks say, too bad, we're going by the old maps, or is that the banks can do what they want?
Well, the interesting thing is they can't go by the old map because the old map will have vanished.
Okay.
But once we adopt the new ones, so
No.
it's
It's the minute it's available, it's considered the
yeah.
best information available, and they're required, just as they use it against us.
Right.
As I said, the 2017 map will vanish online. They won't even have access to it. And the crazy thing is the new map looks so much like the effective. It's crazy.
Right. Okay.
Good.
So then the banks can't say, sorry,
No.
once you're on, you have to be on, or you...
No, they cannot do that. They cannot. And there have been instances where I've gotten involved and talked to the banks.
Yeah.
And,
I think, like I had a really hard time, and I'm not even in it, and I was showing them maps where my house is, and they were like, too bad, we have you listed as flood.
They did that after the last storm too. They were doing a big grab for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, they were
Big fight that we had to do.
The biggest thing that the banks have been trying to do is you only are required to have flood insurance if the floodplains touch your home. If your backyard is in the floodplain, that doesn't matter.
Right.
And so the banks were trying to say, if any part of your property, and it's like, you're not insuring the yard.
Right.
Right.
I'm sorry, what did
As long as it doesn't touch the house.
Exactly.
Well, hopefully this is a good step forward. Fingers
You've done
is.
great. You've done
Yes.
such a great
thank
job.
you.
Best thing we
Thank
ever
you very
did.
much.
long process.
I appreciate all your support
Thank
through
you.
the years.
So if anybody wants to contact Jennifer after Thursday, there's her number, 835-5700.
Would you give her
I'll leave some cards on the table, too.
She's going to leave some cards.
crossed.
call her Friday morning? Wait, she requested off Friday. I just saw that.
And did anybody have any questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank
All right,
you.
next on the agenda is the Greenview Park Sports Courts and our township engineer, Mr. Frank Russo.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Frank.
Evening.
Someone can see this? Excellent. Cartoon,
All right.
everyone has one.
Yep.
Have a good night, John.
Good evening. It's been a couple of months. June, I think. So at the June meeting, governing body gave me pretty clear direction that they want to see 6 pickleball courts and 1 basketball court. They asked, how much is it going to cost? I said, I don't know until we find out what's underneath. So Public Works went out and lo and behold, it's what we uncovered on the westerly set of courts is actually in better shape than what was on the easterly side.
Oh, thank God.
So I hope someone has gone to see it, but it's much, much better. So, I've drawn, provided you with a couple of cartoons. On the left side is what's presently out there. 3 tennis courts, 3 pickleball courts, using the same net. I've received and met with some pickleball enthusiasts, and had some pretty productive discussions on what we were looking to do, which part of it is why there's 2 options up here. Apparently, there's a need for the pickleball people to be close to other pickleball people instead of separated by a basketball court.
That was going to be my first question. Is there a benefit to putting the basketball court anywhere?
No.
Okay.
No, it's
That's
just, I guess they just don't like basketball people interfering. So, what's it going to cost?
That is the question.
Interestingly enough, earlier this year, we got input from, or information from a couple of other municipalities that had built pickleball courts. Egg Harbor Township, down at the bottom of the world, they spent about $60,000 a court for
How much?
$60,000 per court for 8 courts.
That's 306.
Reddington, 4 courts at about $67,000 a court, which is excessive, I think, in my own professional opinion.
Quick question, in context. So he's talking about they had nothing there on that piece of property and they built it?
Yes.
Okay.
They had 0, which was one of the things that we had maybe tossed around, digging up everything and
Right.
redoing everything all over. We'd probably be right in that area, $65,000 per court.
Better with 0.
So the way I laid it out, all the courts that are shown, they're all regulation. They provide the U.S. Pickleball, there's a U.S. Pickleball Association, 30 by 60 playing area per court. The basketball court is NCAA sized with, an appropriate barrier all around it, a buffer. So we were kicking around a couple of other things to add to the court. We're thinking about a full height fence between the basketball and the pickleball court, just to keep the pesky basketball court people away from the,
Yeah, that makes sense.
more enlightened pickleball people.
Now, would that be like, what Little League has, the netting, more of a thing, or?
No, the
No,
permanent,
just a higher fence.
It'd be a regular.
a 10-foot fence, just to match what's there now. In June, we had discussed that we're going to use the posts from the existing fence that's up there. So when we pull the asphalt away on the westerly courts, we're going to have to replace probably 6 of those, just because they're standing up by force of habit. The rest of them are good. I think most of the fence work we can do in-house. Take down everything, bring it to the shop over the winter, prime it, paint it, have it ready for reskinning in the spring. New fence between basketball, pickleball. And another option was to make each of the new pickleball courts standalone, 4-foot. If you've ever worked in an office with cubicles, pickleball cubicles. Each court would have its own access, so that, that was one of the things that was brought to my attention, that, pickleball players don't like crossing other pickleball players' courts while they're playing. So we're going to add a gate for each particular court.
How much does that cost to the project?
So man gates and fences, it's a square foot cost.
Just fencing of the pickleball courts?
Fencing, we're looking at about $55,000. That's
4-foot fence.
it's reskinning all the fence that's out there, the 10-foot fence and pickleball fence. Pickleball fence was about $20,000.
To divide the 6 courts?
Correct. It's about 450 feet of fence at $45 a foot.
Okay.
So another option that was discussed is, if we're going to have access to all of the courts, with gates on the back, maybe we want to add a sidewalk all the way around.
Right.
So I had laid out and priced out a 6-foot wide sidewalk around both courts, because might as well just go around all of them. And it would be set so that, should resurfacing be desired, at least I'd have something to pave up against. Resurfacing, most of this we could do in-house. The resurfacing, we would definitely have to contract out to someone who has the ability to pave with a laser, because it's, we all live in Pequannock, there's a hill, and it's not here. It's challenging to repave something without a puddle. Paving will be expensive. So, if we wanted to do all the sidewalk and paving, paving just the right side, the left, the westerly side, and the sidewalk all the way around, that's about $75,000. So, depending on, what direction you give me, we're looking at from $110,000 to $185,000 for one of the 2 layouts.
And what do we have set aside already?
Currently appropriated, we have $80,000.
And there was a cost to the disposal of everything that we took out. I don't know exactly what that came out to, but that wasn't free.
Okay.
Wasn't taken out of the 80,000 though. We have a little bit of ARPA money left that has to be spent by the end of year's end, so that's what paid for this.
Okay.
Okay.
So when you say 110 to 175K, like kind of what's the difference? Is the difference like
Sidewalk and
20,000
paving.
for sidewalk?
The sidewalk and paving, that's $75,000. Everything else, the price is the price. It's not that much of a
So we
difference.
can we do the sidewalk and paving at another time?
Sure.
Oh, wait, no.
Well, no, you gotta do the paving.
We gotta do the paving.
Right, I mean the
Paving of
sidewalk
the
all the way
courts,
around,
yeah.
paving of the courts.
How much is the sidewalk?
Sidewalk and paving was 75, sidewalk. Was $300 a ton I had spec'd out. Sidewalk was about $40,000.
Okay. So sidewalk and paving, 75K. Fencing all around, another 55. So that's 130?
And the equipment, for a basketball court and 6 pickleball courts, that's $30,000.
Got it. I knew I was missing something.
And then the painted, the surface itself, it's the same as last year, it was $25,000.
And we're doing that in-house?
That we can do in-house. I mean,
So that.
we would prefer to do it in-house. You know, we could contract out, but, you know, double the cost.
We can do it. Why would we contract?
We've got a whole side of practice,
Yeah.
so
So 175,000, take off the 40,000 for the sidewalks.
185,000 minus the sidewalks. It was 185.
180.
185
Yeah,
minus?
110 to 185 was, you know, 185 was with the sidewalk and paving. 110 was, you know, nothing on the outside.
Sure, 145.
145.
Yep.
I kind of think we need the
I say we,
walkway around.
well, I think we can do the walkway around at a later
Split
date.
the project, that's what you're saying?
Is there a structural benefit to the presence of the sidewalk, or is it aesthetic and convenience?
Putting the sidewalk in gives you something to pave against. Without paving against something, then just like every road in town with no curb, you know, the edge is not pretty.
Right.
So the sidewalk would have to be done before the paving.
That would be my recommendation. We're going to pave, do the sidewalk, pave against it.
We have no other money that we can,
Not enough to cover that difference.
So how much did we appropriate? 8?
There's currently 80,000 appropriated for the courts.
What
so,
will 80K get us? What will 80K get us?
Well, we can find some other money
80K will get you,
on budget
Up to
day.
110, right?
we'll
Yeah, I
get,
mean, we have a budget, but
We
you'll get everything
have a-
but
We
now.
have a whole
and-
budget that we can go through if we gotta,
you wouldn't get any fencing inside with 80,000.
What's the most realistic thing to do at a later date? So fencing, I see it as, you know, we have to drop posts and stuff like that, so how realistic is that to do after the fact?
Messy.
you're gonna be cutting up, you're gonna be putting a hole in the brand-new asphalt that we just put down.
Right.
With a laser, which I'd rather not do.
Yeah. Here's my question to Mr. Brewer. So, say we go for the
145.
145. That's with the curb, is that with the curb?
That's without the sidewalk.
Without the sidewalk.
Say we go 185. When are we gonna be able to get the project done if we do go 185? We're gonna be,
So plans and design can be taken care of over the winter, so that can be done ahead of time. We'll really just be waiting for the budget. I mean, we could put the money in the operating aspect of the budget and deal with that from a procurement perspective before the budget is formally adopted. So there's a way we could juggle that. Really, it's weather.
Some of the fencing we might be able to do this year.
So as a realistic target date, I would say July 1.
start or finish? Start?
That's gonna be
now you're
tight.
getting specific.
Yeah, that's gonna be tight.
July 1 finishing would be very tight. July 1 starting would be a little safer, but it would be summer of '24. Sitting here as a bureaucrat that doesn't
Budget.
want to be pinned down too hard.
Budget would be approved by then.
Budget would be approved, but procurement would have to take place before that, so we
But
have
we
to
still
enter.
gotta
And then if
find another 100
if we're
grand.
hiring an outside company, we have to go to bid for that outside company for the...
Which we could do,
So we'd have to go to
before
bid.
budget was adopted.
Right, and then, what if the bid came in higher? We'd be, like the
Just like the
pond at
sewers.
Greevy Park.
Well,
Yeah.
That was supposed to be done a year and a half ago.
If we
when
painted the other side.
Bids came in wrong.
Why can't we paint this side?
Well, we are. It's cost us 25 grand.
We are, after they pave it. The other side is nice, but we need to do this right. Like, I'd
that's why
rather
I'd be
spend the
paving it.
extra money and do this correctly and not have lumps and bumps.
So here's my question. Are we going to be able to come up with 100,000 for next year for the budget to get this done?
That's the question. Remember, we just spent almost $2 million on a new ladder truck. We've got the Brita filter at $4-point-something million.
That's not
We
the
have
question
several
I'm
million dollars for the sewer system.
These people don't want to hear that.
I know, but unless they want their taxes to go up 10%, that's what we
have it?
fight with all the time. We have to figure out, we got one bucket.
Council sets the
that's all.
budget, not the manager,
Yeah.
so.
You think we can find it?
Do I think we can put $100,000 in the capital budget for this project in 2024, subject to council approval? Yes, I can prepare it with that included.
I say we go for it.
I say go for
I
it.
say we do the whole curbing and everything. If it's going to help the
For
paving, we got to do it.
40,000, let's just go and do everything and we'll find it. Remember that memo that came out today? I guess we're all sitting in on those meetings. We're going to be like, no, sorry, you can't have that.
We had some money left from this year's paving project. Maybe we can take some of that this year, to put towards it, to make it a little less painful next year.
We can try. The challenge is with the remaining paving. For example, we had a water main break on Jackson Avenue that we have to bring in a company to box out, cut, mill, and pave.
Yeah.
So without having a little bit of flexibility, you end up having to do emergency appropriations for simple repairs, and we don't want to put ourselves into that tight of a situation.
Okay, so I
We're
think
just
we're
gonna
going to
have to
give
figure out
Frank,
how to find it.
we're going to give Frank direction to do the top one.
Yeah, the
To have the
top one.
pickleball courts next to the other courts and have the basketball
And have
court on the far end.
And we're going to do everything.
We're gonna do everything.
We're going to do the paving as well as the inside fencing.
$185,000. It's going to go around the curb, you're
And
going to go around
lights.
the whole thing. Lights are already there.
Lights.
They were just upgraded
They
to
were just
LED.
upgraded, right? All the lights, okay.
And a gate at each pickleball.
Yeah, in the front and in the back. Yeah.
Do we really need that? No. How much are the gates going to save?
Needs and wants,
How much are the gates going to save us?
But wait a second, we don't need gates in the back?
Wait, when you say gates in the back, gates
Yeah,
in the...
there's two
There's-
gates right
there's
here.
serving
We get
each
into
court.
each-
I got 3 gates in the back serving the back 3 pickleball courts.
If we
you
don't
wanna
need
go
those
into-
gates in the back, then we don't need that whole sidewalk in the back.
Well, no, the
Right.
sidewalk is there to help the paving.
If we don't have gates, how are we getting through the fence?
Right, you need to get into
Through the
each...
front.
No, you can't walk through when somebody's playing a game.
All right, wait, so how about one gate in the back? So you can get to all 3 courts with the one gate.
I need at least 2.
You need,
I still got to get into the basketball, and one of those
Okay.
gates in the back is going to be a double wide, so we can get in there for lights and all that other stuff that we got to do inside.
Are we really is this just minutia? I don't really think it's going to save us anything.
I'll tell you how much it'll.
we're talking like saving 10 grand if we eliminate a gate?
I doubt it.
A gate, no, but gates are. I want to save it $30 a square foot. I should have this highlighted. Gates, $40 a square, 4 to 10 feet high, 3 feet wide to 6 feet wide, $30 a square foot. 4 to 10 feet over 6 feet high, $40 a square foot. So each gate, 3 feet by 8 feet high, 24. It's $800.
So no,
Just go ahead.
it's not a significant
Right.
savings.
And you're not doing anything more on the other side, so we definitely need all this sidewalk here too.
Frank said.
Needs and wants, if you're gonna put it in, it'll look kind of odd to do one side.
Yeah.
And what it does is, if at some point in the future, the other side needs to get paved, and you're paving at the sidewalk, at least you know you have an elevation to hit.
Okay.
Just makes it easier.
All right, Frank, I think you got your marching orders.
Okay.
Am I allowed to say that?
Soup to nuts. So things that I can get done this year, budget willing.
You'll find the money.
Okay, you mean like fencing?
No, we only have 80 for this year.
And a little
That's
bit.
enough to get us started.
We will accomplish everything.
Take down the
toward this
poles.
goal that we can this year, that we can.
Prime
We'll
the
be getting-
poles, get the poles
I'm more
ready.
concerned about that bid,
What bid, to paint it?
the bid for the paving.
The paving.
Paving is specialized.
Paving, and it's specialized paving, and it's getting expensive. It's getting more and more expensive.
Yeah. And if you've been out there and you've seen the condition of the existing asphalt, where it's really bad or not real great, that's the pavement seam
Right.
for a 10-foot wide paving box.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm for it, I'm just.
But there's other things we have to do first,
That's our
right?
cost, that could go a lot higher than we're
I
estimating.
estimated pretty high, but, if I could tell you how much it was gonna cost,
Right.
I wouldn't be here. I'd
Yeah, gas goes to $5 a gallon. It's
be in
gonna
Costa
go
Rica
through.
somewhere on a boat,
Right.
counting dollars.
I will note with the grants for paving, we've come in under on every single one that Frank has participated in.
Okay, so let's try to.
Speaking of grants,
let's-
is there any grants we can get for this project whatsoever?
We tried, and we did not succeed.
Unfortunately, we are not in the,
And is there any money in the Parks and Rec utility?
We can explore it.
Yeah. Right?
we can explore it.
Okey dokey. Well, there you go.
All right, Frank, thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Not for me.
No?
Nope, thank
good.
you.
Silence is golden.
I hope everyone here is happy with what we got. Thank you, Frank, for your expertise, meeting with some residents. All right. At this time, are there any reports or comments from a volunteer serving our community? Seeing none. Next item on the agenda is public comment. This public comment period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional public comment period is reserved later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their questions and comments for 3 minutes. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized, come to the microphone, and provide your name for the record.
I guess not.
Anyone? Public comment? No?
I have a comment.
Sure.
Come on up.
Just your name.
My name is Jerry Matoro. Wayne had pickleball courts done, and they got grants. I don't know where they got their grants from, but they got like a $60,000 grant.
Is there any way you could find out?
We'll find out.
We'll find out. We're the grant.
I suspect the Passaic County handles their open space grants, like Essex
little
County, very
differently.
differently than Morris County does. So I suspect, having been party to the grants like that, that's likely where it was
And
from.
there was that.
Unfortunately, Morris County doesn't promote park improvement through open space grants, only acquisition, versus Passaic and
Okay, I
Essex.
just figured I'd
that do
bring that to
improvement.
your-
I did $1 million artificial turf field in Essex County with an open space grant, and it was wonderful, and it makes me sad that Morris doesn't do that, but...
Yeah.
Hey,
Well, who can we
appreciate it.
elect to get them to
Commissioners.
doing that?
Exactly.
There was-
Thank you.
There was that recreation grant that we looked at, but our income, we didn't have the diverse, and I think Wayne probably,
Well, we applied for a grant, a state grant for this.
Yes.
And it was not funded.
Right.
But if I was a betting man, I'm going to bet that it's Passaic County open space. But
Right.
But I can confirm that.
doesn't matter.
Okay, I just figured I'd let you know.
No, I appreciate it. Any idea is a good idea.
No, thank you for considering the pickleball courts. You make a lot of people happy.
Yes.
And I think you're going to make money on these pickleball courts also, because we could have tournaments, we could charge. I mean, right now, we can't have tournaments with the condition of the courts that exist now. We play on them only because there's nothing else to play on. but they're in.
At least we got that.
We got that, but they're getting worse and worse as, the rain and then the cold. But I think we'll be able to generate a lot of income once the courts are in place, that you'll be able to use the money someplace else.
All right.
But thank you very much.
Anyone else for public comment?
I just had a really quick question going back to the pickleball courts. Do we got to worry about like the freezing and the cracking?
It's asphalt, New Jersey.
So yes.
So yes.
I have another
Yeah,
question.
over time, I mean, if you look at the investment that the Board of Education put into their courts, they had to spend a significant sum of money repairing them because it's
Right.
New Jersey.
Did we
I wish we
resurface?
really researched those tiles that they put
sport
in
court?
flood areas, the sport courts.
Did we resurface the other side, or did we just paint it?
Just painted it.
We filled cracks and
Right. So this is going to be much better right out of the box because we're actually putting a new cap on it.
correct.
It's going to be like glass.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not getting my stim meter out yet. It'll be a new service.
I'm going to put a marble down.
All right.
Real quick, because I see what's on here. Lori Ferentz. Question about sewers. I live in a 4-bedroom home. There's only 2 of us. Why are we getting charged by bedrooms and not by water use, like so many other towns?
We have decided not to do that. Water your lawn?
Sometimes, just like everybody else.
That would go into your calculation for sewers.
And
That's
Mayor,
but that's okay.
if I may, one of the principal issues is we don't have, through the development of the community, the ability to do it because each unit doesn't have an individual meter. We have some houses that have 1 meter, we have some multifamily units that have 1 meter per unit, and then we have some that have 100 units on 1 meter. And an entire continuum within that. So there's some with 30 units on 1 meter. We don't have access to the data to bill that way because water usage is based on a water meter.
Right.
So we have the condos next door where there are 100 units on 1 water meter. We have the condos in the Glens where some buildings have 20, some buildings have 30 units on 1 meter. We have your example of a single-family home with 1 meter. So there's no way to parse out sewer usage when you have such a spectrum of number of units on individual meters. Most of those communities don't have that continuum.
I kind of understand where you're coming from, but I would just say, like, if there's a group of 10 homes, because I did originally live in those condos, you would just divide it up. Like, if this is your sewage usage, say it's 100,000, I know that's ridiculous, and you would divide it by the 10, and everybody would owe that. Because it just seems that we're getting so priced out on the sewer, and I'm just looking here, and I have no indication, but I'm seeing there's an assessment, a special sewer assessment payment plan. Is that something that's going to be added on to our
That's someone that got sewers and never hooked up and didn't pay the...
They began paying on the installment plan and then stopped.
Okay.
And by statute, they have to pay the full amount of what's owed the township. The township's practice has been to allow them to be reinstated once, so as to not penalize them, so that's what's happening there.
Okay.
But to get back to your point about the methodology, I've worked in communities where it was based upon water usage. Typically, it's the first and fourth quarters water usage of the prior year, so that's how they factor out irrigation. The auditors, the CFO, and I spent about 9 months trying to come up with a construct that could equitably work using water usage, and it just wouldn't work. Always there was a disproportionate impact on someone, so the most equitable way to do it, unfortunately, is the rate structure that we have.
So is it really done by bedrooms?
It's, the only difference in bedrooms is 3 and 4. Otherwise, it's a house. It's not a significant change.
It's not so the price, like I know mine is $267 a quarter, so what's a 3-bedroom?
Probably $20 less a quarter, maybe 15.
I was going to say, is there any way to, like, go by, but then again, I was going to say just to have some kind of calculation, like, okay, you got a 4-bedroom, but you got 2 people,
9 months. 9 months of effort. Trust me, we ran models after models after models, and there's a significant desire to attach it to water usage. It just doesn't work.
Can I ask why our sewer is so high? I mean, Unfortunately, I'm just dealing with my aunt who passed away and paying bills down in Patterson, and I thought Passaic County, they would be, the Passaic Valley water system would be ridiculous, but they're only paying $170.
We've had many new projects to install new sewers. If you installed sewers 100 years ago, it was a lot less expensive than it is today. That's the simple answer. I'd be happy to go into lots of detail and show you everything. I don't have a
No,
card
because I
with
wouldn't
me,
understand it also.
I can show you the math. I can even show you the models. I'd be happy to go over the whole history of it with you. Give me a call, and I'll spend as much time as you'd like.
The council 40 years ago could have had it done for nothing, and they elected not to.
Yeah, I mean,
The whole town.
it just seems ridiculous that I'm paying over $1,000 a year. Like, if I go to sell my house, I got to say, got over $1,000 a year in sewer costs, and maybe I should hook back up to the septic and put that back in, because I had no
Well,
problem.
your house is going to sell higher because it's on sewer.
They say that, but then-
People want...
People don't want to deal with
People
the
want
septic.
sewer.
Yeah.
Because septic is very expensive.
Is this, like, I know it creeped up little by little. Are we stable now? I know we've been stable for about a year.
The next 4 years, there's minor increases.
Each year.
I hate you. You are the one that tells me this all the time. When you say minor, what's minor?
I don't have it in front of me, but again, give me a call tomorrow, and I'll go over everything with you. I'll happily email you the ordinance too, so you know what's
It's
coming.
not good news. At all. All right, no, that was my question, and when I saw the assessment on here, I'm like, are we getting assessed? So,
Melissa, make sure you call Jennifer on Friday morning to see if your house came out of the flood.
do you know I'm the only one on Saddle Drive now? I mean, how can there be one house?
The house next to you has to be in the flood.
One house.
Congratulations.
I never was there, it was never flooded, one house, and it's me. It's you again.
Mayor Dave Cole, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Say hello to Rudy for me.
I will.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is the manager's report.
And there is no one left to applaud except for Peter. Everybody else's reports got applause, so there's a lot of pressure on you. Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, the presentations took place. I appreciate everyone's efforts. Jennifer and Frank put a lot of work into those. We had some discussion in past years with residents as well as among this governing body regarding pedestrian safety concerns on Newark Plumpton Turnpike. When these concerns were brought to the county, because it is a county road, therefore the county is responsible for any improvements on it, the county's response was they were applying for grants to study the area to come up with recommendations and get funding for potential improvements. I followed up recently with Mr. Vitz, the county engineer, who informed me that although they applied twice for the grants, they were not funded. So he's going to be working with his staff in-house to study the area and come up with recommendations. So I know specifically Councilman Dreese had some questions and had some residents reaching out to him. I've had residents reach out to me periodically about it. I will keep the council informed as that process moves forward. With respect to Greenview Park Pond lining, Mrs. Russell stole my thunder. The project initially went out to bid and was significantly over budget. There was an attempt to mitigate the additional cost by resizing the project. The new bids did come in a little bit lower, but nowhere near what's available in the current appropriation, by the tune of approximately 30 to 40% over what we have currently in funding. So there is a resolution scheduled for the council's consideration to reject all bids for that project. Staff is working in-house to come up with a way to try to work through a number of the tasks with existing staff and materials and potentially renting equipment to try to get the project done under budget with a hybrid approach. And then lastly, written in my report is a description of the opioid settlement funds discussion item, which is later in the meeting. So unless there are any questions on the items already presented, that is my report.
Any questions?
So what are we going to do with the pond? So we originally did it because it's leaking. So then we're going to...
$25,000 a year we're spending in water.
How much?
25.
Approximately 25.
So it's 25 grand a year.
We're going to try to do it in-house.
And there's no other way we can do it, right? Because we're going to a rubberized liner instead of the wasn't dirt clay liner that we have in there?
Correct. Which it's reported to me that it didn't work. Maybe the turtles ate through it. I'm not sure. But we have, when it's drier season, there's a 1-inch line flowing water into it all the time, 24 hours a day.
Wow.
So essentially, we're going to build a really shallow pool.
So we're going to lower the depth of the lake?
If we turn the water off during the dry period of August, it would have dried out in 3 to 4 days.
Okay.
So we're going to figure out timing-wise when to do it, how to do it, and
Is it worth doing it?
the concern I have is it's an ongoing expense for the water utility.
Right.
So $25,000 a year times
Quickly
5
adds
years
up.
times 10 years.
Right.
All of a sudden, $250,000 for water. I would rather repair it and make it right moving forward.
So basically, either fix it or get rid of it.
We haven't proposed get rid of it. We're proposing to fix it, but, if someone were to say to get rid of it, that would be something that the staff would consider. My understanding is it's a recreational amenity that's, appreciated in the park.
Yeah, it definitely is.
So that's why our intention is to
All
try
right.
to fix it.
See if we can fix it.
It's one of those goofy operational things that you don't know about until someone tells you about it, and then, $270,000 to fix it, we thought was extraordinary.
Right.
Any other questions for the township manager? No? All right, thank you, Mr. Brewer. Public hearing, there are no public hearings scheduled for this evening. Ordinance for introductions, there are no ordinances for introductions. Next on the agenda is resolutions. Ms. March.
Beginning with Resolution R 2023-199, authorizing the acceptance of a hold harmless agreement from Amanda Deck and Mark Mobius for Block 3403, Lot 16, which is 14 Carroll Place. 2023-200, rejecting any and all bids for the Greenview Park Pond Lining Project rebid. 201, releasing Montshore Capital LLC for 101, 101A, and 103 Mountain Avenue from performance guarantee and accepting Juniper Court as a public road. 202, authorizing the reinstatement of a special sewer assessment payment for 8 Voorhees Place. 203, authorizing the reinstatement of a special sewer assessment payment plan for 72 Village Road. R 2023-204, authorizing tax office refunds, overpayments, or cancellations. And R 2023-205, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the September 22nd, 2023 bill list and 2018 FEMA elevation escrow list.
Any comments on the resolutions from council?
I just have one. On the one where the people are putting a shed on a drainage easement.
Yes.
Putting a 160 square foot shed on an easement isn't gonna hurt the drainage?
No. So the benefit of the process that the Township of Pequannock has in place and the council has granted in the past is many places people are either denied the ability to do this or do this without any approval. And the challenge is if the township needs to get access to the infrastructure, the structure's there. This process allows the homeowner to be responsible for that, and if it's an emergency situation, we have to go through the shed, we have no liability.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, if we have to do work, they have to move it. But it allows them to use property that is theirs with an easement, but protects all parties.
Okay.
So there's no physical
So the other one that
threat.
made him move, it was our property, not their property with an easement. Got it, okay. I'm good. Thank you.
No other questions? Is there a motion to approve these resolutions?
I'll make a motion to approve resolutions R 2023-199 through R 2023-205.
Brian?
I'll second.
Oh, yes.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hurd?
You're not going to start with the other two? I'm a yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next on the agenda is the discussion item.
Thank you, Mayor. The Township of Pequannock decided through legislative action and based upon the advice of council and your township manager to participate in the settlement agreements for the national opioid settlement. There was litigation that many people heard about. It was widely reported in the press that those individuals who were deemed by the courts to be responsible for the opioid epidemic had to pay money to people in a class action type dynamic. The township opted to participate, and we are scheduled to receive funds for 2 settlement agreements, one being the Janssen, the other being the distributor settlements. We opted to do this to preserve our rights. If we can get access to money, we want to get access to money. At the time, the rules or uses of the money had not yet been promulgated, so we weren't really sure what we were getting or how much we were getting. We just rose our hand and said we want to get it. 19 of the 39 towns in Morris County participated, 10 did not. 20 did not. If anyone's checking my math. Yeah, 20 did not. So roughly half. The Janssen settlement is an 8-year scheduled payment, roughly $3,500 a year. It changes a little bit, but it averages out to be about $3,500 a year. The distributor, and is a total of $28,815.63. The distributor settlement is a 15-year settlement, is roughly $11,000 a year, again on average, and totals $166,679.45.
And that's over 15 years?
That's over 15 years. So for the first 8 years, we get roughly $15,500 a year in payments. What are we allowed to use it for? So the settlement language, of course, is lengthy, but, simply put, it's really intended to expand or establish new programs or treatments to combat the opioid epidemic. So we can't use it to pay for the Greenview Park Pond or the Greenview tennis courts or anything in Greenview. I'm not really sure what, had some discussions with staff. I'm not really sure what we were thinking of doing this during the budget discussion. I mentioned perhaps offsetting the cost of Narcan. Narcan is now free.
Right.
So, I'm not really sure what we were gonna use this for. There was a discussion among county administrators within Morris County with the Morris County administrator about what the county was proposing to do, because the county's a participant in this independently from the municipalities in Morris County. I don't know if anyone here was involved in local government at the time, but around 2000, 2007, 2008 in Morris County, there was an initiative to remove local assistance from municipalities and move it all to the Office of Temporary Assistance in Morris County. Reason being, each small town didn't really have the resources or the programmatic structure to provide welfare or assistance to residents. So the idea was the county has the infrastructure, the county has connections to the programs. If someone goes in for temporary assistance and asks for assistance to pay that month's rent, perhaps they could also be signed up for assistance with food or other opportunities that are all housed within the county's Office of Temporary Assistance. So all the towns in Morris County around that period shifted and eliminated their participation in local assistance and moved it to the county. The bigger towns may still have an office, but smaller municipalities really don't have it anymore. So that kind of, and I was a participant in that when it happened, so my brain kind of went, if the county has infrastructure, if the county has programs that can effectively do this, and a little bit more money would be helpful, maybe we could give our money to the county. So we explored that in the meeting. Within the packet is a letter from Dina Leary, the Morris County Administrator, that talks about the initiatives that they're creating that are really in partnership with Sheriff Gannon and Hope One and all the things that are happening at the county level for that. So the purpose in me bringing this up to the council tonight is, does the council want me to try to come up with a use for the money locally and come up with something that might be eligible for funds, knowing we've got about $14,000-ish a year? Or is the council curious or potentially interested in us shifting our money to the county to supplement what they have for countywide programs?
Can we have New Hope, do it for us?
Who's New Hope?
New Bridge.
New Bridge, sorry.
Well, the question is, for about $14,000, do what?
They're smarter people than me, yeah. My worry is that if we do something, it'll actually cost us more.
The challenge is to do something effective. I'm not going to name programs or initiatives, but we're all aware of programs or initiatives that spend money that may not be effective.
Right.
Coming from the field of treatment prior to me joining municipal government, I'd like to see this money actually help somebody.
What's the best course of action?
Sometimes I feel we give stuff to the county because we're all the way on the other side. They don't come here a lot,
We could ask them to come here more.
you know?
Well, I know Jim Gannon's been here with Hope 1 or whatever it's called.
I don't think he's been to the schools.
I'm sure if you asked him, he'd go.
Maybe people aren't asking. I know
brought him
he's-
to the high school.
I know he's great with all that stuff.
I
but-
think he'd be
Yeah,
wherever
he does.
we ask him.
I think when someone asks, but I don't think the county does a lot of outreach into our town.
Yeah, I mean, look,
The county, I'm not talking about if maybe, and maybe that's our fault. Maybe we need to ask them to do more.
Yeah, I don't have, for lack of a better description, a dog in the race. There's nothing that I strongly advocate for one way or the other. I just would like to see, from my heart's perspective, the money go to the best use possible. And, whether it's I know the county has scholarship programs to assist those who may not be eligible for a state bed in treatment. They may not have health insurance. They have those existing programs that can be expanded. I know it's money that we signed up for, so it's money that I'd love to keep locally, but I also don't want to have a situation where we end up with those total figures as balance sheet numbers 10 years from now, or 15 years from now, and we've done nothing with them, and it's still not enough to necessarily do something effective. So I'm caught in this kind of catch-22 of it's not enough to do something consequential, so what do we do with it?
Well, my thing would be, if there's something Newbridge can do with it, that would be my first
Or our health department.
Selection.
Our health department is
or health
amazing.
department, yeah.
They would
And if
identify
not-
and refer. They couldn't actually engage in the treatment that's
Right,
called for from
right.
the perspective of the settlement agreement.
Right. So we would have to establish something so that if somebody needs something, we can send them and pay for it?
It would be along those
Which the
lines.
county already has set up.
So establishing something and creating, office supplies, we're dipping into the...
Right.
Yeah.
But that's my point, is we don't have, and that's why I used the temporary assistance as an analogy, because we just didn't have the office space, the manpower, and the programmatic support.
Right.
I say give it to the county.
I'd like to think about this a little longer.
Yeah, I don't need a decision tonight.
Yeah.
This isn't something where there's a deadline to make a decision, and we can make a decision
I'd like,
years from
before
now.
we decide just to give $15,000 a year back to the county, I'd really like to think about it and maybe talk with other people and talk with other towns, see what they're doing. I think giving it to the county is probably the easiest thing, but
But it
if we
doesn't
could
have to be
figure
done right
something
now.
that would really, really help people who need help in town,
That's why I say Newbridge,
I'd like to
because
see it go to the
they
town.
would know what to do. And if they don't, then yeah.
And maybe they could help us out with something.
I'll put an action item for me to reach out to Newbridge and say, this is the conversation, this is discussion. I was specifically asked to check with you guys. What are your thoughts on what could possibly be done locally with approximately $14,000 a year
Right. Maybe they just, I'd like, yeah.
of treatment money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that wouldn't be too much, before we just hand the money away, I'd really like to hear that. Thank you.
Perfect.
Is that, as a preliminary step, is that good with the
Yeah.
governing body? I just want to try a
Yes.
clear direction.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we even know if we can give it to Newbridge?
We know it needs to be for a new or expanded program. So my question will be to Newbridge, I'm assuming they're somewhat familiar with this. If not, I can send them documentation and say, do you have any idea of what locally could be done with this?
Right.
We'd love to hear ideas.
Right, yeah.
It's certainly not a procurement issue because it's sub any procurement threshold. That is all I have for that item, Mr. Mayor.
All right, there are no notices for this evening. Next on the agenda is reports and announcements from council. Councilwoman Florence, she's not here. Councilman Erd?
Yes, Mayor. The only thing I have is First Aid Squad is always looking for volunteers, so please sign up. And we're having our Oktoberfest Saturday, October 7th from 2 to 9 p.m. and there's going to be some incredible music as well as food vendors. I think they've got like 20 vendors. It's going to be pretty big this year.
It was good last year.
Yeah, it's going to be even better. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Councilman Erd. Councilwoman Russell.
Mayor Dave and I attended Morris County meeting, and the speaker was James Gannon, and he does do a lot of great stuff with Hope. He was going over Hope 1 and Hope 2, and he's always such a good speaker when he talks about the inmates, and the inmates say, you know, Sheriff, the food here isn't really good, and he says, well, you know, when I go out and if the food's not good, I don't go back. So he's pretty good.
Oh, and his bed and breakfast.
Yeah,
It's gated.
his bed and breakfast in his gated community, yes. PD School, the solar panels, they look really nice,
Yeah.
I
right?
haven't even seen them.
Yeah. I know,
Can you see them from the front?
well, as you're driving up, you can see them. They're facing the library, that whole side, a lot. A lot.
There's a lot of them.
Friday the 13th, there's a movie on the beach sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce. October 13th, so hopefully it's not cold or rainy, but
Hopefully it is Friday the 13th.
I think it's Friday the 13th, but that's all I have. I do not have a lot today.
All right. And to be honest, other than that, you know, Councilwoman Councilwoman Russell and I went to the Morris County League.
And my chopped liver?
Ryan was there too.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Three of us that are here.
Three of us went. Sorry, I'm so
that are
sorry.
here went. And it was a nice event. But yeah, so that's all I have. Next on the agenda is public comment. Anyone wishes to address the council, wait to be recognized.
Come on up, Peter.
To the microphone, provide your name for the record.
And ready, you got 15 minutes, ready, and go. I'm timing.
3 minutes.
I will note that Mr. Schmidt gave no applause after my report.
I wanted to use this section to give you the applause, okay? Because you deserve it. However, more important, with respect to this opioid settlement fund, 3 weeks ago, 2 ladies came to my house. One was a nurse, the other one was health department here in Pequannock and in Riverdale, shared services. They asked me whether I noticed any smell of my neighbor. Neighbor, she lives alone, has lots of cats, you know. So, and they rang at their door and she answered it, but they couldn't get in. And I think there are a lot of problems, and I really appreciated these 2 ladies going around and trying to help people. And I think, you know, doing the house, so what I did, you know what was like 2 days later, I went to my neighbor and said, here, Samantha, let's exchange telephone numbers. I want to keep a tab on you. You shouldn't live so alone by yourself all the time. You know? And I think this outreach could be something that could help, that could actually make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually one lady was, I think, here from the health department of this nice people. So number 1. Okay, number 2, okay, and now come. I noticed from the audience that obviously the population has the resurfing of their playgrounds more on their heart than the flooding of our buildings. So I want to applaud the township that we have, let's see, a flood resilience officer instead of a resurfacing officer. I think it's a wiser decision. The next thing I noticed was this public comment was actually used as a question and answer session right now, this time. And I remember you saying public comments are not a discussion with the council, just a comment, and so maybe you should in general clarify whether this is question and answer or just public comment. And you don't have to answer this question.
We like to have conversation. We like to know what people are asking and thinking.
Well, it is public comment, and when things get out of control, it's very important to keep it to public comment. I think the answer is, as a practical matter, when you have one person here and they ask just a few questions, has it really hurt anything? It's a natural response, Peter, and I think that's...
Yeah. I love this in the United States. In Germany, that would be highly regulated.
Yeah.
Here it's more pragmatic. Yeah. Okay, so those were my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, seeing no one else for public comment, next on the agenda is minutes for approval, September 12th, 2023. Are there any comments on these minutes?
No, sir.
Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Next on the agenda, we don't have any closed session, do we?
No, sir.
No. So we are going to,
Leave.
seeing no further motion, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned at 8:12.
Thank you.